All right, guys, I'm testing. And so I try to test my sound every single time that I come on. And if it is not good, I can always go back to my old headphones. I know I've gotten a couple of complaints about the sound, but I always ask. So if at any time the sound is not good, please let me know. And I will fix it because I have a couple sets of headphones. I also have some wireless headphones that I could use, but I'm not sure if I need any more wireless stuff humming near my head. But it's not the worst thing in the world for me to have to use some wireless headphones. And I got to work on some of my speech habits. I have a couple of speech habits, especially when I'm being careful about speaking for the Lord. When I start speaking for the Lord, I'll hesitate. I'll think a lot. I'll say, nervous words, like, and like, right? And I know that, that's just part of it for me. And I'll work on it. It's not an excuse to be lazy, just giving you why I would hesitate and be more thoughtful when I speak. Hi, Deb. How are you doing? All the invisible people. Well, there's no one here. I could see everybody when they type. So yeah, there's nobody here. I sure would like to find out how to do that, where you can turn it off and only have it for people that subscribe to the channel, and then you could put like a a time frame as to how long that the person has to be subscribed to the channel before they could um, text. Yeah, there probably is five in the room. We get some lurkers, We get people that hang out and probably trolls. But the way I look at it, this is what makes me excited about the troll proposition, right? Is that to me it's intriguing, right? Because when I pray about it, I get the sense that if someone's trolling me, right, and they're you know trying to make me out to be something that I'm not, right, and to try to keep people from coming here, and those people are probably lost. They're probably not saved. And so, I'm not the judge of that, right? Only God is, but a saved person, I don't think would act like that. And so it gives me an opportunity to share the gospel to people that aren't, they aren't saved or haven't heard the gospel yet, you know? And I think that it's an excellent opportunity. Getting trolled is one of the things I think it's one of our most untapped resources, as Christians. I think we should like relish in the fact that we're number one, we're getting trolled and we're on the right side of it because Jesus said it would be like this. And number two, right, those people that are trolling us are probably um, probably not saved and they're the people we want to reach the most. So to get those types of eyes on this channel, yeah. I mean I couldn't advertise it any better. And I think that God the more I'm humble about it and the more I trust God, right? Um, you know, the, the more blessed that I feel like that we get. I feel like we get stronger, by being more tolerant, not widening the road at all. That's not the right answer, but being tolerant of people that aren't there yet, you know? Now, I'm just as tolerant as anybody else in the world, I think. I'm pretty darn tolerant. I tolerate a lot of stuff that I really don't want in my life, for sure, right? For the sake of if that person's moving 1 inch better, and it's progress, then it's worth it to me. Hey Paula, how you doing? Welcome. Hey Clutch. Yeah, it is evening. I actually feel pretty like I don't know what happened, but my voice came back. So I don't know. I didn't do anything different, and I feel like more wide awake now than at any part of the last. This last week was a blur for me. It's a lot of work to stream every day and not miss any days. And then but it's hard to do it twice a day. And so I can tell like that if I'm not complaining because of course I choose what I want I do. So this is all stuff that I want to do. I'm not developing any resentments over it. I'm like happy to do it. But it gives me a whole new appreciation for people that are like out there driven by some kind of passion to be on all the time. And sometimes that's negative, sometimes it's positive, but I feel like I have a force pushing me, to do it. I mean, it's weird because like there's other stuff that I do in my normal day, clean up and all this stuff, right? But like I do get tired doing that stuff, and for some reason I never run out of energy doing this, or you know, reading the Bible or listening to the Bible or studying. I never run out of energy for that. The worst that happens to me, I think, is when it's constantly Bible, Bible, Bible. Sometimes I'll need to take a break, something to break it up. And then when I come back, I'm just as hungry as I was before. And so I don't know if any of you guys ever like run into that, um, those issues or whatever. And then another hard thing, I guess, if I'm like, if I'm going to give you my list of things that are tough, right? For me, right? For me, every time I turn on the water, I get fresh water, right? That's, uh, that's so horrible. But, in perspective, the toughest thing I think that is trying to meet 100 people that I don't know. And they're not always saved, and it's not always in a place where people are saved, necessarily. I try not to get too far off the path. But you can tell when something is Christ centered and when it's not. It could really drain you, because it's more people care. Not that it's bad or good, right? I'm not saying that, but people are more drawn to how other people think of them. Um, they try to they try to maybe manipulate the outcome of things a little bit more. I don't know if you guys notice that. Like, I don't know, like if you're watching a comedian, they base it off of their laughs or how much people are enjoying their show instead of just doing it for themselves. And so I don't know. I don't want to know what you think. What? I do. Of course I do. You know. Well, I think that's a good question, Clutch. Um, well, the God would have made tests in the garden. Well, I mean, yes, in the sense that you can't like add or take away any knowledge, right, from God. He has it all. So he knows everything. Like there's nothing he doesn't know, so it's not like he's got to wait and find out. But that doesn't mean that just because he knows what card you're going to pick that you're not picking the card. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense to you. Hey Faith, how you doing? Nice to see you. No, I wouldn't say that. God created the earth because he wanted to partner up with human beings to rule heaven and earth. And how do you know if love and obedience is real, right? If you don't give someone a choice to do the wrong thing, right? Like, do you want to just be made automatically where you just have to love somebody and you don't have a choice to not do it? It wasn't really a test. It was like a setup that, we didn't handle well. I say we as in Adam, right? But that's the way I look at it. I don't know if maybe Level Up thinks of it differently. Oh no, Hey, I understand Clutch Bear. Of course, that's what places like this is for, is to ask questions. This is informal. I'm not a teacher. Like I don't for 1 minute think that I'm some kind of. I've only been reading the Bible for 5 years, right? 4 or 5 years. Not. I mean, I read it a lot. I mean, I guess compared to most Christians, but like it's not enough to think I'm a teacher. But like in casual conversation, I think that I try my best, and I think that that's something that people can see that you know you're either real or you're not. And I'd rather be around people that are wrong, that are real, you know, than fake people that are right. It's 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 a toss up, right? And there's a lot of nuance to it, but a genuine person, right? You can tell if someone's being genuine with you or not. Yeah, sometimes I look at it. I look at it. Yeah. Well, sometimes I look at it like some things aren't really meant for me to question. Some things are really just above my thinking. And so like there's a lot of questions that you can't really ask in a yes or no kind of way because of what it affects later, right? Now, a lot of people that want to disprove something that's real, right? Will have like a plan on how they do that. And so their whole idea is to bring you down that plan. And so there's a lot of, I would say each question, right, requires its own thought, right? And so the Bible is a spiritual book. The spirit of the rule is just as important as the rule itself, right? So if there's a rule not to touch the stove, right? It's so you don't get burned, right? Um, Meaning that if you touch it when it's cold, right? You know what I mean? Then okay, no harm done, right? But you need to do it. You need to not touch it, right? The spirit of the rule is don't is the rules are there for us to live our best life, for us not to get hurt. The rules are there for our benefit, right? It's not meant to exclude anyone. It's not meant to put make anybody less or more. It's not meant so that someone could shake a finger at you, or you know the way things are, the way they are as defined by God, is for our own benefit and nothing else. He's not trying to keep us from things that are good for us. And so that was hard for me to understand, because I used to think that, you know, there's right and wrong, and God defines it, and that's just the way it is. And if I don't like it, too bad. But God doesn't make rules just to make rules. It's there for things to be the best they could be for everybody, you know. And I, you know, who am I to tell anybody how to be or how to act? I would just say that I don't write the rules. I didn't create the universe. All the answers are in that book, you know. And I can't imagine that God is going to hold us accountable for anything more that's in there, you know. And so, yeah, it's tough to well, I guess well when you okay, so here's the thing, right? Your relationship, Clutch Bear, your question was, so it's hard to type in this chat, but I will try. Not trying to challenge fate. No, I understand that, right? And yes, you want to be able to ask questions, right? But understand this, right? When you have people that love God, right? This is the most personal thing in our lives, right? Is our relationship with God. And so when somebody is like feels challenged on their belief, right? In the thing that they love the most, right? You can expect it. Sometimes it could get heated, and just to accept that, like just dust off your spirit, show up tomorrow, and all is good. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Adam and Eve were not children, and they were every bit as sophisticated as we are, if not more. And so, yeah, they weren't. It wasn't an unfair scenario. I mean, the way I see it, from what I read, is it was a conditional immortality, right? As long as you could get to that tree and eat from the tree of life, right? Then you could live forever. I don't see a bad deal with that. I don't remember there even being any like uh, pain in reproducing until after the sin, right? Yeah, we don't inherit guilt. I don't see that's another touchy thing, right? Is like, okay, are we born with sin? I don't know, right? Um, I think that no one could be perfect, right? So I don't think that it matters. And I think that um, if you die when you're a child, there's an age of accountability. So you go straight to heaven, right? And like God is loving, He's not unfair. That's one of the biggest hurdles I had to overcome was that I had to actually know God's nature, like fear Him for the right reasons. Not God's not unfair and mean. He's like very loving. I know. How is it unfair when God pays for what we did? Exactly. And people like, hey, look, I get it. Some people are like, well, if I sin, I don't want to have to be held accountable for that. Why does he even hold me accountable for that in the first place? I mean, if you're God, right? And I mentioned it earlier with like, you have a maggot in your cup of water, you know, you're just gonna throw out the cup, man, and get a new one. You're not gonna like take the maggot out and drink the water, right? Well, what Jesus does is he cleans you out and he fills you right back up again. And so, you know, you need Jesus or else God doesn't want you. And it's not because of him, it's because of what it is. Sin is nasty. It's gross. It's Sin is a maggot in a glass of water. I don't want to drink it, you know? And so I think it was Pastor Kim, Dr. Kim that said that. But I watch different kinds of pastors and stuff, and I can't say that one person has all the truth, right? I would say the best thing you can do is read it yourself. and get a lot of counsel, right? Like when I don't know something, which is a lot of time, I ask people, you know, but not just one person. I'll ask like, half a dozen people. And then whatever that, that answer looks like it is, I'll pray about it, right? And then I'll test it through what I know and get as close as I can. I mean, what do you think God is going to hold you accountable for? I mean, if you do your best, right, then that's all you can do. The only time where you should feel insecure about it is if you're not doing your best, you know? God would not want you. It's like a glass of water, right? You get a glass of water and there's a maggot in it. Do you want to drink that glass of water? Would you take the maggot out and still drink it? But if someone gave you an opportunity, you have all the ability to get rid of that maggot and refill yourself clean, right? It's up to you to do it, but don't get mad at God if he doesn't want to drink maggot water. Does that make sense? You have all the ability and all the everything at your disposal to become fresh and clean without anything coming from you. Like it's all a gift, right? And so if you choose not to become clean water again and you want to stay with a maggot in you, well then you think that's God's fault if he doesn't want you? I mean, we got to be at least a little bit reasonable, you know, considering that he's perfect and he can't exist next to sin, you know? Like we don't know what kind of pain that puts God through, right? We don't, you know? Sin next to something holy, I don't even think that that's possible. But he's holy, which means he's perfect, which means he doesn't make mistakes. So when there's a mistake near him, it's probably to you it's nothing, but to him it's probably horrific, you know? And it just can't happen. It can't be. It's not because he doesn't love you, because he sent something to clean you. He 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 got you want you we all want him to get rid of sin, right? But we don't want him to get rid of us, right? And so he does the best he can, right? All he can, everything that he can. Comes in the flesh, takes his own wrath upon himself, and dies and comes back to life, right? He does everything that's possible for God to do to make us clean again, to reconcile us to him, and then we don't want to do the thing that makes us clean. I think it's kind of unfair to like put it on. Well, because here's the thing, Clutch, right? God could let you off the hook, right? But then he would be shady, right? He wouldn't be holy anymore. So you have a punishment, right? That if you sin, you're gonna die, right? You have a death penalty. Just like if you didn't have a God, right? You would die and that would be the end of you, right? Well, there's a death penalty, right? And so he couldn't let you off the hook because then he wouldn't be holy. So he came and he paid your punishment for you. So that way your punishment is paid, he's still holy, and you can exist with him. And I think that that's a pretty decent explanation. I mean, I'm not a teacher, I'm not, but and I didn't go to any schools or nothing, but that's what I gather from it. Like, what was your point that you're trying to say? Like, you can't imagine God not wanting you if you have sin on you. Is that what you're trying to say? Because I don't think it's possible. Number one, and number two, He's giving you every tool and opportunity to clean it. He does want you. Oh, okay. Well, then say what your thing is, and then I'll see if I could understand it a little better. Sorry, Clutch. It's not your fault, and don't feel bad for. This is good. It takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing. It's a, and I appreciate it. Yeah, sometimes we question things like, well, why does it have to be that way in the first place? Why can't there just be no sin at all and no choice to do bad, right? Or something like that, right? Well, there's some things that are just like above our thinking, right? Like some things are just, there's a reason why we have a choice, Uh, it wouldn't be real, right, if it was automatic. Oh, why would God allow this to happen? What, the sin in the garden? Well, because he respects our human dignity enough to give us a choice of whether or not we want him or not, right? He respects your dignity enough, Clutch, to say, if you don't want me, Clutch, then you don't have to have me. He's not going to make you do it. And I think we get this illusion that somehow everybody doesn't know this or doesn't get an opportunity in life, right? To decide. Everybody gets I wouldn't say the equal amount of times, right, to hear the gospel, but everybody gets an equal chance, right? Maybe the one time somebody hears it, the only time they hear it in their life is so profound, right? More than the million times we've heard it, right? You never know what's in God's plan for people. So like there's people where like somebody's like experience with God could be so intense that it just grabs you, you know? Oh, Jesus paying the price? Yeah, because if God says, okay, well, forget about the law and the punishment, right? Just forget about the punishment. Well, then that means he's accepting that they're accepting sin, right? So the only other way, right, without Jesus paying the price is for you to die. And so God doesn't want that either, right? So God comes in the flesh, right? And takes his own wrath on himself and then comes back, right? And pays your punishment, right? So that way, if you want, you can choose to accept Jesus' sacrifice. It's his love for you is why he did it. Because the only other way to reconcile that is, didn't Jesus say, I didn't come to end the law, I came to fulfill it, right? Meaning you broke the law and there's a punishment. I didn't come to get rid of the law and say, okay, it's all good now, anybody can do whatever they want. I came to pay the price for your punishment. With the law still being intact, meaning you still have rules to follow in life, right? But your punishment is paid, right? So your salvation is a gift, but that doesn't mean that there's no law anymore, right? And even Paul said it in Romans, right? Should we sin just so grace should abound? Or maybe that wasn't in Romans. Maybe it was in Galatians. He said that. And no, you know, we're not supposed to. We're supposed to do the right thing. I know it's sad, right? Because Jesus was beautiful in every way, right? Inside and out, right? Perfect. Loving, caring, cared about the poor, right? Wanted to teach people, was tolerant with sinners, wanted to help them grow, right? Just a beautiful all around person, right? Wanted to heal sick people. He didn't just go hang out with he didn't say, "Hey, I'm God. Where's the president at? I'm gonna go chill in the White House." No, he hung out with us. And yeah, it's hard to come to reconcile that in our spirit that somebody so beautiful had to die, right? For us, right? But instead of looking at that as being unfair, which it is, right? You could also look at it as think of how much that he loves us, you know? Think of how much he loves us. Hey Cole, how you doing? Here's my son. I love you, Bubba. And so yeah, coach, that's what I would say, is that um yeah, it's just it's one of those things, Clutch, like I guess we I love you, babe. Uh I think it's one of those things, Clutch, that's um maybe above our pay grade, right? The simple part is, right, is that God loves us enough to take our punishment for us, right? That a sin did happen in the garden, and things degraded to a point where um, you know living without sin isn't it was an impossible standard, and so God being fair and just and loving, right? He found a way to reconcile us, to redeem us, and I try to look at it from God's point of view, right? Like the ultimate sign of love, right? Like wouldn't the like say my son is here in the chat, right? Like I would die for him, and not because he would be happy that I would be dead, right? But he knows that I would die for him because I love him. And so yeah, it is heartbreaking to know that somebody had to die for you, but um it's also heroic, you know, for for somebody to do that for you. And so I look at the Bible as like a love story. I mean, it's historically accurate. Uh, Jesus was a real person that walked around, right? And now with us finding out now with the advent of computers, right, and us being able to question everything that we've learned in our lives, right? Um, now the amount of confirmation, right, that the Bible is true is astronomical. And not only that, but they like are clearly with all these occult symbolisms, right? And naming things after naming the moon missions after the Antichrist. It's obvious what this place is and why they would lie to us, right? And now that each of us has seen that evidence with our own eyes, right? You don't have to trust me, right? You know that these things for yourself, right? And see, that's the thing, Clutch. That's what's great is that you don't have to choose, right? You don't have to choose, right? You can still you can still follow everything that Jesus wants you to do. I mean, out of reverence and out of love. The only thing that doesn't affect is your salvation, right? Because there's nothing that you can do to make it. Only Jesus has that power, and only Jesus has that ability, right? Clutch, I think we're all at different places, right? And I think as long as you're seeking the truth, right, then it's okay, right? If you're dug in and there's evidence that goes beyond what you know, well, then I would say that would be then you're getting into that territory, but you're open to learn, right? So like there's things that I don't know, right? That I'm not there yet. I don't know them yet, but I'm open to learn them, right? And so what I want is the truth, not my own story. You know what I mean? And as long as we seek the truth, eventually we'll find it. And that's what the truth is supposed to be to protect us. In fact, Jesus equates himself to the truth, right? He is the truth, the way, the truth, and the life, right? which means it goes backwards too, right? The truth is Jesus, right? The truth will set you free, right? You know, that liberated feeling you got when you found out that, the earth wasn't a spinning ball and you're like, oh wow, it's actually Israel. Oh my God. Like like it is flat. Like that feeling you got, like that relief, right? That's that's a taste of it, right? Yeah. Well, to me, I don't think his deity is in question, you know? I mean, I mean, what else do you want Jesus to do in front of people? Like, he ascended to heaven on his own authority, like in front of many witnesses. You know, it's kind of hard to call him a teacher. I mean, if you're gonna just call him a teacher, then you'd have to say he's, you know, because he's telling everyone he's God, right? So he he'd have problems, right? If he was a regular guy, he'd have to go to a hospital and get checked out. Because if somebody, like, say you went to school, right, and someone was saying that he was God, but you didn't think he was, and he was your history teacher, would you want to learn history from him, or would you want to give him some help? You know, I don't know. I mean, Jesus healed many people. He walked on water. He knew like all the word, like like all of the word that was written, right? And then he died, and then he came back to life, walked through walls, right? You know, and showed his scars, right, to prove that it was him. And then, and then rose to heaven, ascended in front of many, many people. You know, one thing I learned about, BS stories, right, is BS stories don't last this long. And there wouldn't be this many people motivated to disproving it if it wasn't true, you know. And that's the problem, right? Is if you want a reason not to believe it, you're gonna find one of these people that spend their whole lives and their whole careers, finding little tricks and loopholes around things, And that's what ballers do, right? That's what ballers do protecting their globe, right? Is they create they'll just come up with something new to guard or block your proof, right? You know? And it doesn't make what they're saying true. It just gives them a way out not to have to deal with it, right? Yeah. Well, then that's it, Clutch. That's it. That's it. And I think that a lot of these questions are like, thank you, Clutch. I appreciate it. And I think a lot of questions we're gonna have to ask God when we get there. I know I have a lot of questions. Like, why. I would never question God like, outright. I would just ask him, like, to explain, why there's so much pain and suffering and why people do that to each other. Um, I would want to know that stuff. But is it something that I think that I was created to know now? I don't think so. I think only God knows what God knows, and His responsibility is so huge. I mean, think of the Book of Job. It's been a long time since I read the Book of Job, but God took him around and showed him all the things he's responsible for. And then not only that, but he like numbers the hairs on your head. So there's a lot of variables that go into things, right? Like, y- you know, he's got to help you and everybody else, right? And so it's got to work out in the end, right? It's a lot of work. Not for God, but for us it would be. It would be impossible, right? What is a false teaching? Oh wow. Yeah, Deb, that's right. A false teaching is something that goes against the word of God, you know, or something not to be true in your head, right? Or saying that you know something when you don't. Yeah. We'll get there when we get there. That's right. We'll get there when we get there, and then we'll know what we need to know, right? Well, I think a good one, Paula, is like all these, like, you know, like I watch so many different revelation people that study Revelation, and everyone has all these different timelines and all these different, not just timelines, right? Because I know we've covered that, but I've even saw one teaching where they said that the seven horns, right? The 10 horns, and then it's one horn ruling the seven. That that's not countries or kingdoms. That's religions, right? That there's seven false religions, and then one false religion will come up and rule them all, right? That's born out of three. And yeah, I mean, it's different than I've ever heard before, and I'm still trying to figure out if this guy's good or not. And I've gone through like 26 volumes of like a 54 volume thing, right? And it's yeah, like everyone has a different definition for the symbolism, a different definition for timelines, a different, and we're talking like people that have like, you know, spent time in Revelation and wrote books, I mean, that cover many, many years, and are still changing and rewriting stuff that they discovered, It's so difficult, isn't it? I think so. Like that's the part that prophecy will always be the thing that I'm most interested in, but know the least about. And it is so hard, right? Especially when like um it almost seems like the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation are like, how could they be so similar, that written that far apart by two different writers, obviously with the spirit, right? But I mean, wow, just how they go together, and how do you even go into Revelation without reading the book of Daniel? There's only one truth. That's the thing, Ray. That's the thing. There's only one truth, and only one person can be right. But it's like, how do we know that when we find the person that is right? I try to learn just to to become the most right that I can, but I always just pray to God, and I just tell him, I say, hey, look, hey, look, uh, I want to be right more than anything. Desperately, do I want to learn the right thing and call you by the right name, and all this stuff that we're faced with, that I hope that just from the sincerity of my heart, right, that he knows that I desperately want the truth. And even when you test it with the scriptures, sometimes one person can have a different interpretation than another when it comes to like prophecy on that. Yeah, and that's, I agree with that, Paula. Like, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. And see, that's why a lot of times when I'm faced with like a difficult decision, like a question, like I'll defer to somebody else. But even if I answer a question, right, I would still tell people to go ask as many people as you can that would know, right? And and read it for yourself, right? That's the only way to know it, right? Or to get as close as you can. And what's more important than your relationship with God? I can't imagine having something else to do. Something else that I need to do beside. I guess like immediate things in your life, there are life and death issues, of course. You gotta feed your family, right? But like as far as like priorities, nothing is more important. I wouldn't sleep, until I, felt like I did my best. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard. Is that subjective too, Paula? What your effort is. I don't know. I only know how I feel inside, and that I want other people to feel that too, because it feels good. And I didn't always feel good my whole life. It only started when I started to get closer to God. Right, the closer I got to God, the better I felt inside. And it shouldn't just be about feelings, right? But like the amount of love that like not the amount of love that God loves me with, which is a lot, I feel it, right? But the amount of love that I'm able to have to give to him, right? I don't even know where that love came from, but it's a tremendous amount of love to give. And I want everybody to feel that, that relief, that it doesn't matter, you know, how many years you have left to live, or what you've accomplished, or how much debt you have, or what kind of car you drive. None of that matters. What what matters is, you know, our relationship with God, and, you know, helping people get to the next level. To me, I don't know. I can't think of anything more important than I would spend all of my time, all of my free time with somebody to help them get over the hump. If they were serious, there wouldn't be anything I wouldn't do for somebody. And maybe that's just something that God put inside of me. I don't know. Maybe other people don't have that same desire. So I don't know. Well, I guess I'll be hitting the old dusty trail. And thank you for the question, Clutch Bear. And thank you guys all for coming. It's good to see you guys. And God bless you. And praise Jesus for his sacrifice and his grace. He knows all the hairs on our head, right? He knows everything that we've ever done. And he wants to spend the rest of eternity with us. If that's not humbling, I don't know what is. But all the glory belongs to him. And I have no problem with that. So I'll see you later, guys. I love you guys. And I will see you tomorrow at 7 a.m. Pray for the kids. All right, bye.